HOA Karen called the cops when my daughter moved and then collapsed when my wife flashed her FBI badge. Why would a neighbor call the cops on a teenage girl for unlocking her own front door? Well, if you've ever met someone like Karen Driscoll, you already know the answer. She wasn't just a Karen. She was the HOA Karen, president for life of the Magnolia Shores Homeowners Association, self-appointed judge, jury, and executioner of neighborhood standards. 5 feet wide, a permanent scowl carved into her pudgy face like a gargoyle statue made of sour cream. The morning it all happened, my daughter Lena had just flown back home from college. She'd had a rough semester burnout, roommate drama, grades hanging by a thread, so my wife and I agreed she should take a semester off. Rest, reset, be with family. Simple enough, right? She Ubered from the airport, rolled her suitcase up to our porch, and unlocked the front door. I was in the garage at the time, elbows deep in a toolbox, but I heard her call out, "Hi, Dad," and the screen door clicked shut. Then I heard the voice, that shrill, nasal honk that made the hairs on my arms stiffen like needles. "Excuse me. Excuse me." It was Karen, waddling down the sidewalk like a tank with angry feet, flanked by her ever-present clipboard and her embroidered polo shirt that barely fit over her stomach. "Who are you? What are you doing?" she shouted at Lena, stomping right onto our porch. "You don't belong here." Lena blinked. "We live here. I'm Mr. Carter's daughter." "Don't lie to me," Karen barked, eyes bulging. "We don't allow tenants under 25 without HOA approval. You think I don't know every face in this community?" "Karen," I warned, stepping out from the garage. "Back off." But she didn't. She whipped out her phone, stabbing 911 like it owed her money. "There's a suspicious individual breaking into the Carter home," she yelled. "Young woman possibly armed claiming to live there. I need an officer now." I was frozen for a moment. Not with fear, with rage. Lena looked like she'd been slapped. Her hands trembled. She tried to speak, but Karen cut her off with a finger wag and a booming, "Trespassing. You are trespassing." I clenched my fists and told myself to breathe. Just breathe. But then Karen marched to Lena's suitcase, unzipped it, and started going through her clothes. "Looking for proof of ID," she said smugly. "HOA protocol. I'm within my rights." That was the last straw. I stormed inside and grabbed my phone, calling the only person in the world Karen shouldn't have messed with. My wife. She'd just gotten off a red eye from Quantico. FBI, Behavioral Analysis Unit. 20 years in the field. 6 years leading federal task forces. 5 minutes later, tires screeched in front of the house. My wife stepped out, heels clicking on the pavement, a trench coat flapping in the breeze. Karen didn't even look up. She was still rifling through Lena's things, holding up a shampoo bottle like it was contraband. Then my wife reached the porch. "Excuse me," she said coolly. Karen snorted. "This doesn't concern you, ma'am. HOA security protocols." That's when my wife pulled out her badge. The look on Karen's face? Legendary. It was like watching a balloon deflate in slow motion. Her mouth dropped open. Her eyes bulged even more. How was that possible? And her legs gave the faintest wobble. "This is a federal badge," my wife said, voice calm as ice. "That young woman is my daughter. This is our home. You just committed a legal search of private property, unlawful harassment, and you made a false police report." Karen took a step back. And another. "Two didn't know this isn't," she sputtered. "This is a misunderstanding." "Not anymore," my wife replied. "Now it's a crime." And wouldn't you know, a twist number one, the responding officer arrived just in time to hear it all. And he wasn't just any beat cop. He was Detective Marquez, a community crime specialist who used to be my wife's student during interagency training. The moment he saw her, he grinned and nodded. "Ma'am, always a pleasure." Karen's knees buckled. "You know her?" she croaked. "Know her? She used to grade my reports," he said, then glanced at me. "What's going on?" We explained everything. Lena's arrival, the harassment, the suitcase invasion, Karen's obsessive HOA stalking. And my wife? She pulled out her backup phone and played a recording of Karen shouting at Lena, proof of harassment, plus a screen recording from our door cam showing Karen unzipping the luggage. The officer looked at Karen, then at Lena, and finally at my wife. "You want to press charges?" he asked. Before we could even respond, Karen burst out crying. Ugly crying. Loud, gasping sobs that echoed down the street. She sank onto our porch step, grabbing at her stomach, wailing, "I didn't know. I thought she looked suspicious. You don't understand. I was just trying to do my job." "Your job?" my wife said sharply. "Since when is rummaging through a young woman's underwear part of your job, Karen?" Gasped from the neighbors. Some were already watching from driveways. One man recorded the whole thing with his phone. Another neighbor walked up and whispered she did the same to my nephew last year. Accused him of stealing my mail. Twist number 2. That same neighbor revealed Karen had a history of filing false complaints against anyone who looked out of place, including calling the cops on an Army veteran who had PTSD and walked his service dog near the community pool. We didn't even need to press charges. The neighbors did it for us. More and more stories came out. A petition began circulating within the hour. By sunset, HOA Karen wasn't just collapsing on the porch. She was collapsing in public support. Karen didn't return home that night, not in the way she expected, anyway. By the time Detective Marquez finished gathering statements, 5 neighbors had stepped forward with their own complaints. One even produced a stack of HOA violation notices that Karen had faked, signed with a forged secretary's name, a woman who had resigned over a year ago due to Karen's dictatorship. The kicker? Karen had been charging administrative fees and pocketing them. That night, Marquez filed an official report recommending charges of harassment, unlawful search, false reporting, and possible misappropriation of HOA funds. He told us straight up, this isn't a local matter anymore. HOA fraud carries civil and criminal penalties. And so the tide turned. By the end of the week, the HOA board held an emergency vote, not because they suddenly grew a conscience, but because they were terrified of the FBI getting involved further. My wife didn't even have to pull strings. She just let the facts do the talking. Karen was removed from office, stripped of all access to HOA documents, and barred from contacting any resident again under threat of restraining order. Her name was removed from the bylaws that she herself had rewritten to include 3 terms in a row for president. It turns out she'd been ruling this neighborhood like a paranoid queen for 6 years. And the crown? It crumbled overnight. But what happened after was almost poetic. We received a handwritten note from a quiet elderly couple down the road. It read, "Your daughter deserves better than this neighborhood gave her. Thank you for standing up to the woman who scared so many of us into silence." Another neighbor, Mr. Beltran, a retired school teacher, came over and offered Lena his old telescope for her astronomy class. People brought food, cards, support. And as for Lena, that girl found her fire again, not because of what happened, but because of how she responded to it. A week later, she enrolled in criminal psychology, inspired by her mom's courage and Karen's collapse. She told us over dinner, "I want to protect people like you do, but smarter, quieter, from the inside out." That's when I knew Karen didn't just lose her power, she helped light a spark she could never put out. The community's changed now. There's more laughter on the sidewalks, fewer violation letters, and 0 strangers rifling through people's suitcases. The board appointed a new HOA president, someone who believes neighborhood means neighbor first. And Karen? Last I heard, she moved 2 towns over, tried applying to a different HOA. They rejected her application. Someone sent them the video of her being escorted off our porch in handcuffs. Fitting, right? So now I ask you, was Karen just being cautious? Or did she finally meet the one family that wouldn't back down? The end.